Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear improvisers, wherever you are, whatever time it is. Welcome to In Conversation, our bi-weekly interview series. My name is Jakaš Kapin. I'm the current producer of The Well, currently calling in from London, England. And today's conversation is really, really special. We're going to be chatting to two extremely talented improvisers, pedagogues, performers, composers, and much more. Before that, like always, I invite you to visit our online home at thewellvocal.com, where you can see the global map with more than 1,300 improvisers, current events, become a member and join our community. Now, today, I'm very happy to say that we're going to be chatting to Sofia Ribeiro and Juan Andres Ospina. They're both currently in Spain, in the same village, but two buildings. So we're going to try to do this call in a brand new fashion. Let's see if they can join us. Dear Juan,
Hey, Yaka,
hello.
how are
Nice
you?
to see you. I'm very good. Let's see if we can also invite Sophia to join us. She's very close to you, but same village, another building, right?
Yeah, I'm in a different house.
Okay. Currently, I have a notification that she's unable to join, so maybe there's a technical thing going on. I will try again. In the meantime, chin, chin, chin,
Let me send her a
chin,
message.
chin, 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 chin. Prr-pa-pum,
There she is.
prr-pum,
Hello.
prr-pa-pum. It worked. Okay, we are here in the same online space. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you
Where
for
are
inviting.
where are you at the moment?
I, I haven't done an Instagram live since COVID, I think.
Well, about time to do another one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, me too. It's been a few years now.
I've been doing this every 2 weeks, and sometimes it feels like, going back in time, but it's always a pleasure to just find these little pockets to share with people that are doing really incredible things within our global community.
Yeah, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I didn't really introduce you properly, and these are kind of really relaxed conversations. So we might just get straight into it. Of course, people can visit your websites, find out about your music. But today we're really going to steer this conversation into you and vocal improvisation.
Mm-hmm.
And are naming this conversation The Creative Leap, which sounds quite big. So maybe just let's start from that. When you were thinking about the conversation, the creative leap, what did that represent to either of you?
Hmm. Well, for me, it's kind of a jumping, like this idea of leap in a way of like getting into a place which means jumping into the unknown somehow, and kind of opening up the doors of creativity from this place where nothing is really guaranteed, or you have no idea what's going to happen and this is related to vocal improvisation, of course, and that's where all these possibilities of creativity show up. So for me it has more to do into that, like
Mm.
going to that place.
And what about you, Juan?
Similar, I think that for me would be like creating, doing this leap of really creating from whatever it is that's happening, that's in the air, you know, like a lot of risk, you know. Like for me, it has been like taking really this leap into creating and improvising with full trust and risk, and you know, like just all in.
Mm. So the two of you are award-winning musicians. You teach, you perform, you write your own music. If people go online, they're going to find lots of various projects, most with recomposed music, some with improvisation. So maybe to get us going in the right direction, where is vocal improvisation in your lives right now? So rather than starting and thinking of all the journeys, right now in your work, where does it sit? Where is it most active? What does it mean for you right now as quite well-established musicians who are doing a lot of work in the field? What is it about it that's still the most important and the most present in your current work?
Mm. Do you want to start or should I?
Go.
Okay, going. For me, it's actually a big part of my life now and of my musical life, mostly through teaching and facilitating. And because I'm dedicating most of my time to performing my music and also teaching. And sometimes I say that vocal improvisation has been kind of my therapy, a very fun one, because it's been the best way to just go beyond judgments and formulas and rules and ways of doing things. So it has had such a strong impact in my life that I just feel this need of sharing this with other people, and so that is really a big motivation for me to teach and to facilitate. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking about the word teaching, and maybe it's not even the right word because I don't think I'm teaching anything. I'm just kind of opening up spaces and sharing from my experience, and then see, yeah, and then people might have some impact from it. And then when I'm performing, I also try to have that improvisation side very present, mostly through having a lot of spontaneity on stage, whether it's opening up little moments of improvisation or during the songs, or even while talking to the audience, and just having this kind of feeling that anything can happen. So it's mostly that while performing and then while teaching. So it's actually a very big space that it's occupying
Mm-hmm.
in my life, and it's a practice. It's a constant practice. It's like the leap is always there. I'm always like going for it the more I can, and sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's a little harder, but always going for it.
And staying with you, Sophia, for a while, of course, like we're chatting today together because you two work together collaboratively on stage, you write together, perform. I saw you teaching together at Bob McFerrin Circlesong School. You sometimes do also vocal improvisation workshops together, but of course you have separate projects. I met you, Sophia, for the first time in person at Rihanna's Memoration project, which brought together 28 vocalists. So maybe just a question about how that particular space was for you in terms of the movement, right? When we brought in the idea of improvising with voice and movement, and just what that maybe brought to the last couple of years of your practice and
Yeah,
impression
yeah,
project.
yeah. For me, it was a very it was a very powerful experience. It was really beautiful and wonderful, and also very challenging because we were 28 people trying to find our way together and trying to, well, trying. We actually did it, but sometimes it was just it was easier than others. I think I've been working a lot on the body, especially on the past years, because I realized that I was singing a little bit not so connected to my body the way I wanted to. So I've been working a lot on how to really feel my body and let the body lead the way more than the mind leading the way. And so that project was very interesting because it was kind of even activating that more, like, what do I really want to sing? Is it coming from, oh, this is a cool idea, or is it coming from this place of like my body wants to do something? So that was really challenging and also really, really powerful. And also learning how to, yeah, how to combine this with being together with 28 other people, also trying to find their way. And I mean, it was also amazing because there's all these possibilities that can happen with 28 people moving and singing together. It was quite a journey, and yeah, and it definitely opened up new doors in that sense of like the body knowing the way, trusting your body.
Thank you. And Juan, now for you and where improvisation is with you, I especially am interested in the Dos Esferas, right? 12 Esferas project that you did in South America. You're Colombian, that's where you started your musical journey. So
Mhm.
where improvisation sits with you, and maybe a mention of that amazing concert and project that you did recently.
Y- for me, improvisation has also been growing more and more, like in terms of the space that it occupies in my daily work life as a musician. I've been it's I got into this as something like almost accidental. Like I ended up in Circlesong one day because Sofia was teaching a workshop there, and I was super. I really just wanted to go and sneak in for a couple of days, see mostly to be able to have the opportunity to be close for a bit to Bobby McFerrin, because he has been one of my biggest inspirations since I was a kid. So, and then after that, I really didn't have any idea of this circle singing practice. So I just started doing it more, and for me, it's been interesting because I didn't spend much time with this. I mean, I with like going to circle singings. I just like I saw a few, and then I was already doing it in my own sort of way because I didn't have any reference. And so for me, it has become like a I see it as a compositional exercise. It's for me, it's like composing and arranging on the spot. Um, and that's how I sort of approach it. And for me, it's like a game where I can like use all the tools that I've learned and that I have like inside, you know. And so it's been great because I have been doing more and more circle singing sessions, and last year I also organized a workshop, and so I'm doing it more and more, and it's great because it connects me personally to this playful, really playful place, because for me it's a game completely and an opportunity to compose and try stuff on the spot. Uh, and it helps me to connect with that playfulness that later I want to take to my other projects or other processes, either if it's composing songs or producing or arranging or doing whatever. But every time that I do this circle singings or improvised sessions, vocal sessions, I want to like that playfulness stays with me, and and then it's different to compose or to approach the creative process after doing this. And this concert that I did last year was the result of something that I'm still like wondering is how how can you make this practice of vocal improvisation, or actually it doesn't have to be vocal, but just improvising something with a leader, and how can you translate that into a show, as a show, so that it's also interesting and engaging for an audience to be part of that. Because you know, like if you're part of this, of a circle singing circle, or any or an improvisation vocal improv game or whatever, it's great. But I don't know, I'm not sure if it's as fun as if you're doing it as if you are in the audience. as a passive listener. So I was maybe I can try to do like a show and see if I can sort of organize it in a way that it's great as a show, you know, but we are still improvising. So in order to draw like a dynamic line and to not get lost completely in the improv like world, because it was a show where we needed to have like a beginning and an ending, and you know, to have like a sort of a curve. I thought about 12 improvisations, each one inspired in a different zodiac sign. So that was mostly I by no means an expert in zodiacs. I actually didn't know anything about this until before the concert, where I got together with my sister-in-law that she knows a lot, and she gave me a lot of parameters and ideas of what are the characteristics of each sign. So it was great because I knew that the first sign was uh, Aries,
Yeah.
Aries,
Hmm.
and so I
Mm.
I also
knew.
don't know which one is the first one, but
Yeah, exactly. That I now I know, but that one is supposed to be like really like based on the god of war, Mars. You know, so it's very energetic, very like going forward, very determined. So all these characteristics gave me a lot of ideas of how to approach each one of the 12 improvisations. So I think it was great because it defined a lot of the character. It gave some limitations to each, like a framework to each one of the 12 pieces we did. And we had Sophia, we had Joey Blake, we had Tiago, and also Zahara as international guests. But I also had like a choir and a bunch of other guests from Bogota. So we had like a 50 people choir on stage, and we had like 700 people in the audience who were singing also all the time. So it was great. It was fun, and it was very epic. And I learned a lot. If I do it again, which I hope that I will at some point, I mean, there's a lot of things that I would tweak in order to make it better. But I think that overall it worked a lot,
Mhm.
and people were very happy.
Yeah, I really recommend people go to your YouTube channel, Juan Andres Ospina, 12 Esferas, Dos Esferas. There's like a little reel, right,
Yeah,
of like 8 minutes with little moments from each sign, which is really, really beautiful. And the energy, the
yeah,
people on stage, the people in the audience singing. Hopefully it happens
yeah,
again.
yeah,
And we want to see. And Sophia, coming back to you, then Juan was mentioning this idea of the experience of improvising when you're in the circle. Everything that you feel so connected, but then what is the perspective from the outside? If someone is listening, right, what do they perceive? How much they're receiving with that being a performative practice? Maybe you can share some of your views on, you know, developing musicianship and this performative sense of improvisation. So, what is for you important in terms of improvising as a performer? You know, looking at the audience, how can we become, I don't know, more versatile, have more tools so that improvisation can be a strong performative practice that really captures people? It can be from your experience or someone that you know you're really influenced by that you think do it really well.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, I think it's kind of tricky because what I experienced, and it's also related to what Juan was saying, is that I mean, for me, the more the music sounds like in I'm trying to say this without saying like beautiful or ugly or you know, but the more we are together and music is just like in this place, yeah, that everything seems kind of right in a way. The more the music sounds that way, the more I personally feel connected, you know. So for me, it's very important that the musical parts, you know, that the harmonies work out well, that we're together rhythmically, and that is not so easy because circle singing is usually open to everyone, you know. So you can have people that are very advanced musically, but also people who just sing at home and they're not trained at all. And I don't know, when I'm teaching and when I'm leading, I try to bring people into this place of more musical skills and whether is of course, also accepting the level that with the group that you're working with, but also bringing them in a place of being more together, like the pitch, the tuning, the rhythm, and I don't know. I feel that it's what you're feeling in that moment is very much related to I don't know, to the feeling you have in the moment. It happened to me many times that I feel something in the moment while we're improvising, and then I listen back to a recording and I think, I thought that sounded better than what it's actually sounding. This happens to me very often because there's something in the moment that kind of that just captures you and engages you, and then sometimes listening back is like, that was amazing, but now I just feel that musically we're not so tight, or not so much in pitch, or not so much together. So I don't know. I think that the more we can elevate the music and just practice music the best way we can, for me personally, the more we also get connected to something which I don't know what it is, but it's something just really profound and yeah. So I usually try when I'm teaching to bring people into that musical side, also to the connection and you know, being present in the moment, but also like using music as a tool for just reaching a higher level of consciousness. And yeah, it's quite powerful when that happens, when the music is, you know, like in those esferas that happen. I think there were moments where it was like, wow, what is going on here, and people feel it.
And usually it's a combination, right, of really free expression, being fully in your body, fully intuitive, and someone at least having maybe some overview. And maybe in that case, it was Juan, who was the person that was maybe thinking about, you know, the form, or maybe how the sections go. So it's really that balance between, you know, the free, emotional, intuitive sometimes, and kind of an overview that it's a little bit from the outside that can then hear maybe what's happening, you know, with the parts, with the tuning and so on. So it's like worth considering how that combination is within each of us, right? And how we can transition or glide and be where we are on that spectrum. And Juan, for you, I think humor is really important, right? I mean, when you when you work with your brother in lots of your things, when I've seen you lead, you use humor a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that. Would like, if it's a big secret and I cannot know, I understand. But I would really like to just ask you about, yeah, the importance of humor in your music, improvisation, creativity.
I think that for me, I think that's just part of my life. You know, like I don't think about it very rationally. It's not that I think, okay, I'm gonna try to put humor in this piece or this other one, but it just comes out naturally. But what I've witnessed is that if you're funny, like every time that like people connect a lot with humor. So even if you're like at a rehearsal and you throw in some funny you know, like things here and there, and then it just everyone just starts relaxing a bit more. And recently when I've been leading like circle singing sessions, from the beginning, I already like put myself in a very vulnerable place where it's funny because I really like, I don't want to be seen as this um like maestro, you know, like with a lot of respect, but just, you know, just being like vulnerable vulnerable and just you know, more transparent. And then I think that humor just starts coming out like naturally. And then when I'm making the games, because when I'm leading vocal improvisation sessions in whatever context it is, I really enjoy trying different things, you know, like I never know what I'm gonna do, like really, like I just go for whatever comes. And sometimes I come out with some really absurd silly things, but it's not because I'm trying to be silly, it's just because, oh, this came out like last week I was in Valencia, and I went there and I did a session where I had like 20 something people that I didn't know about, because I never did this before in Valencia. And at some point I asked them like, okay, let's try to do something with text. Like, what text do you think that we all know? And it was very hard because, you know, like there were many American students that are at Berkeley, and then also some Spanish people and South American. Like, it was hard to find like a common like text. I was just looking for a text that maybe we could play with, just because if we know the words, I can do stuff with that. So someone said like, oh, maybe the Macarena. so I was like, okay, cool. Let's take that. Baila tu cuerpo, alegría, Macarena. And then I just took that to a completely different place, and we ended up with a very very bizarre and dark version of the Macarena, where the rhythm, it was in a different time signature, different harmony. The rhythm was not even the same. I was just really trying to take it as far as we could from the original version, because I just wanted to use the text. But at the end, someone like brought the dance to it, so everyone was dancing to this really creepy Macarena in whatever time signature. It was super funny. Like everyone was laughing from the beginning because of how absurd it was. So I don't know, sometimes this just happens, you know, like you end up with like really silly things, and it's very easy to connect with that playfulness. But I'm not really trying. I'm not thinking about that. I'm not. It's not that okay, now it's time for a funny moment. It just comes, and then and, and then people. I don't know. I think that it's a for me it's a very natural tool, because I don't need to think about it. But what I see in the audience or in the participants of the sessions is that people relax a lot, and then we connect through that silly playfulness place where it's not about proving anything, or it's not so serious. It's what I feel when I listen to Bobby McFerrin. It's what I felt the first time that I heard him, because everything that he did was so complex, but at the same time, for some reason, he makes me laugh a lot. But I don't really think that he's trying to be funny. It's just so funny. But it's just because he goes to that playfulness and playful and silly, allowing himself to just do whatever. And then sometimes you get some really funny things, and you relax
And he's
and you
a
connect.
great comedian, you know, in his solo shows, especially his interaction with the
Oh yeah,
audience, lights, you know, from musical play to completely just absurd.
yeah,
That is such a important tool
yeah,
to the people that are there listening to him.
yeah.
I had a lovely open forum conversation with Rhiannon recently, and she spoke to Bobby about, you know, what does he think first when he improvises, and he actually said language.
Oh,
He said language, and so my next question really is about this relationship between improvisation and our cultural backgrounds. It's something that comes up a lot in these interviews, that people also find a way to then draw really heavily on their cultural background. They're improvising, you know, of course, things we have practiced and learned as singers and musicians, but that there is a way to connect also to our ancestry and where we are from. So I wonder, maybe starting with Sofia, you're from Portugal, you've studied a lot of Portuguese music, you've performed a lot of it, also the folk side. What do you think, for you, this relationship between your cultural background, improvisation? Do you think about it in those terms? Does it present itself when you improvise with others?
Mm. I think, well, kind of the same way Juan was mentioning, like not wanting to be funny, but in a way it becomes funny. I think it also happens to me in a way of sharing more of my roots and more of my Portuguese roots. I don't think so much of now I'm gonna go into this place of connecting to my Portuguese roots. It just comes out very naturally. Um, and sometimes it doesn't at all. Sometimes I might be, what I like also about vocal improvisation is that everything happens, anything can happen, and all these music styles are present. And sometimes there might be something gospel or jazz coming up. Um, but yeah, I guess also going back to the body, there's something that the body many times wants to express something that it's very like embodied, no, like really present, and of course that, yeah, Portuguese music, it will always be there, kind of ready to come out, you know, and probably in a deeper way than if I'm singing something jazzy or more like gospel or whatever. So yeah, and many times when I'm using words while improvising, usually it comes out in Portuguese. Although recently it also started happening in Spanish because I speak a lot of Spanish.
Moved
I
right to Spain and you live there, so of
Yeah,
course.
exactly. And I nowadays I speak more Spanish than Portuguese, like daily. And so it comes out. But there's something with the Portuguese sound and the Portuguese language, which of course will always have this kind of weight, you know, in a good way. And yeah, and that comes also with a certain way of singing, with the ornamentation, with the vocal technique is different, so it just comes out very naturally. And I think that's yeah, that's definitely a very strong tool that just shows up
Mm.
very often.
Yeah, and for you, Juan, maybe a question about that in circle song setting or when you sing, because I've been also thinking a lot about this idea of musical identities. You know, let's say they have a room of people, they have their backgrounds, and sometimes what happens in improvisation that these musical identities kind of are very present in the air, you know, and then they make their way into music, even if someone else is creating parts. Do you ever sense that when you're doing circle singing?
I think so, because I mean, when you're singing, really what will come out of you, or anybody, is whatever you really have in your system. You know, like it's easier to trick the listener with an instrument, for example. Like if I go to the piano, I don't know, like maybe I know a scale or I know, but doesn't really mean that I can hear it. But if I sing, like I can only sing whatever is in my, you know, inside. So whatever is your background or your influences, because it also doesn't mean that if you're, for example, Colombian, you will have like, I don't know, traditional folk Colombian styles coming out when you sing, because maybe you grew up in Colombia listening to rock music, and then you know that can also happen. But whatever is it that is your background will come out when you sing, because that's who you are. And in my case, I do it sometimes like as a consciously. For example, I would say also like as a compositional tool. So let's say I would say I think of a Colombian rhythm that I like, and then I build something with that idea, and then I'm consciously doing, okay, I know what's the rhythmical pattern of this style, so I will try to make something with that in mind, or this harmony or this kind of melodies. And but as Sofia said, like I also studied a lot of jazz, and so that will also be part of it, maybe in a different way. But I think that whatever is it that you have in your inner hard drive will come out when you sing, because it's just what will happen. So yeah.
So Colombian folk rock,
Yeah,
potentially.
But
exactly. Yeah.
yes.
So, and then really now broadening out to the global folk improvisation community. You know, we are speaking sort of through the well, which is kind of a new network. You have observed probably over the last 10, 15 years when you were really active, how maybe it has shifted, changed. You're part of Bobby Circlesong School. At least that's where I, you know, met you in person. So I'm really just interested in your views on how the community is developing. Where is it at? From my perspective, it mostly kind of existed, you know, in small bubbles, and sometimes it still does. And now there's a more of a feeling of people connecting, people reaching out, bringing in artists from other perspectives, you know, and kind of doing more of a collaborative performance idea, doing more fully improvised recordings. So there's a lot of movement. So maybe just a question for either of you from your end. How do you see the community as it is, where you are, where you're situated? What you would wish for the community? Just your general thoughts.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's definitely growing, and yeah, there's still like small bubbles, but those bubbles are becoming bigger and bigger, and um, from always get very happy when I see it growing because I see the impact it has on people. You know, I feel that people are eager, or at least a lot of people are eager to connect to this creative, spontaneous side and to get out of this world of rules. You know, like this more academic way of thinking. And so it's really beautiful for me. It's very touching to hear somebody saying, wow, after 2 hours of doing circle singing, I feel that there's this weight out of my shoulders, or it reminded me of how playful I love to be, and I am. Or, there's all these things happening, and so it makes me very happy to see it growing. Um, I am personally working on growing more the community around Barcelona, and it's growing, you know, slowly growing. We're doing at least once a month a vocal improv event, trying to do more, and it's always nice to see that people come back and they bring new people. So I mean, I don't know. My wish is that it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger because I don't know. I think that the world is not in a very nice place right now, and this is just. I feel that that's what I can do. Is just, yeah, that's what I can do to just bring some more kind of harmony and connection, you know, and just really connecting to other people, to live events, and getting out of our phones, and just this feeling of being together and singing, no matter where you come from and no matter what is your background, and so so yeah, I'm just hoping that more and more people do it. And we've been doing this retreat about leading circle songs, which is more for advanced musicians. Well, not really advanced, but people who at least have like a musical basic music knowledge. And I'm always happy when I see that those people go back to their communities and start leading. So that's one of the main goals of doing that retreat, is encouraging more and more people to start leading circles and bring this into their communities too.
Thank you. And how about you, Juan? Your perspective.
I think that it's it's something that definitely tends to grow because it's a fun experience. It's something that what I see is that when when the session is fun and creative, like everyone wants to come back. So this naturally just like I also feel it like in Bogota every time that I do it, like more people come to the last one. Like I had like 55 people. Like I had to ask people to, okay, we don't have more space because the room was not that big. But it just starts growing, and I did this. I organized this vocal improv workshop for the first time. It was like an experiment because I thought, well, now that Sofia and Tiago and Joey and Zara are in Bogota, well, let's do something else, something more than just the concert. So I organized this like as an experiment without knowing if people would be interested or not. And then it was sold out, and I also had to like tell a lot of people that it was full. So there's definitely interest in doing this. I think that for students, for music students, it's an incredible experience because it allows you to create without the burden of the academy, that where you have to constantly prove that you learned something and that you need to prove that you know how to use this or that tool or whatever, and to grade the grading system and all that. So it allows you to do something without that pressure. And for people who are not related to music, it's incredible. It's an incredible experience. Like you get people who never sing, or who maybe like to sing, but they sing to the radio, or but never with other people, they don't have time to go into to be part of a choir, and suddenly they are singing with a bunch of people that they don't know, and it sounds good, and it's really fascinating for them. So I think that it's great. It's also interesting because there's not, at least right now, we don't have like a unified, like there's not like a certification, you know, where you go and okay, I'm a certified teacher of Circlesongs, and there's, which is interesting because this just opens the palette, because I know how I do this, and I've seen a few other colleagues doing it, but not enough to say, okay, this is, you know, like I think that everyone has their own way of doing it, and it's right now is very open. I think that a lot of people go to sessions and they are like, oh, this is fun, and why, maybe I will try it with my family, and you know, like I think that that is something that it still doesn't have like that seriousness of you have to go to this school to certify yourself that you are entitled to do this. So this also allows it to grow more. I don't know, Jeff. It's, the only thing is that, of course, it's very different if you go to a Circlesong with this person or with this other person. Maybe the concept of what you do in a Circlesong might be completely different. But in generally, I think that that's good. That's interesting because it opens it up, and a lot of people can feel related to it and at least try it. Because then when you do it, you also realize that it's not that easy. I mean, it's challenging to create the music on the spot and make music that works in different levels. And but the field, like the game is open for anyone. Like I feel that and combined to the fact that it's so much fun to do it, is just making it grow exponentially. And you see people in Brazil doing it, and they are also selling out like every event that they do. And then there's people, the Circle Enchanté or something like that in France with Gael, and probably there's a bunch of people like this doing stuff in their own countries, and it's just growing more and more. I don't know if there's a unified concept of what it is besides just improvising with your voice, but other than that, I think that it's growing exponentially everywhere.
Yeah, and there's a real beauty to that
Yeah,
openness. And
yeah.
comes from the top, you know, from Bobby saying, I'm not going to define this. I'm not going to talk about the specifics of what is a Circlesong. I'm just going to do it,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the influence. And hopefully, at least from my side, there is then also a space for that conversation to happen, you know, through the WOW as a linking project for those people who are really invested in that community, to have conversations about what it is, does it mean for me? What are the things that are useful to share? You know, what kind of conversations can support the growth of different communities as they happen simultaneously?
Yeah.
You know, because there are kind of different stages, but it's definitely growing. And hopefully this is a place where we welcome the connections that benefit, you know, mutually, the different communities and practitioners.
Yeah.
To slowly conclude the creative leap, I kind of want to return to the musicianship in terms of kind of poking you, you know, and asking you, you know, what is a good Circlesong? What makes a good Circlesong? What makes a good improvisation? And almost thinking about, you know, not so the next steps for the community, but maybe the next steps for people who are thinking of developing their musicianship, who are thinking of bringing, you know, their musicianship within improvisation to the next stage. I know it's a very broad question, but I'm sure you have a lot of tools that you've developed over time. So maybe we can just conclude with each of you kind of sharing the things that for you made the creative leap, you know, in improvisation, the things that brought you in your practice to the next step. They can be, you know, very, very particular musical, or they can be very broad as concepts that kind of helped you along the way, that you kind of hold dear, that really made the next step possible in your improvisatory practice. That's a long question, but hopefully
No,
there's some things that
no,
come.
but it's a very interesting topic because um, I I think that it's very important to develop like an or like an analytical mind, for me at least, where you can actually understand things that you can later put in practice, or as you analyze them and understand them, then it's easier to just to how do you say, internalize this like sounds, because you might go and study some harmonic progressions, but you need to really understand it so that they become part of you, and then they can come out like naturally. And because I think about this as a compositional exercise, because I truly think that you are composing, it's what's actually happening. And so the more tools that I have as a composer, I the more tools that I have in order to, you know, to try different things, and to, so having some knowledge of like time signatures and being able to work with certain polyrhythms maybe, or under like being aware of what are the melodies that you hear, and in what order you want to place them. Because for example, I see this very often, like when someone leading, for example, circles, and it's very common to see the leader think about melodies but not really thinking, okay, is that the bass, or 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 an upper part or mid range, you know, and that really affects how it's gonna sound. Like for me, being understanding, okay, this part is gonna have like the roots, for example, of the harmony. Then only being aware of that already makes me much more in control of what I can do and the possibilities that I can achieve while doing improvising. So becoming like more analytical, maybe not when you're doing the circle, but like establishing like this pleasure of studying music, you know, studying like harmonies, and then maybe thinking about this, and how can you improvise with these tools, and but really making some concepts more clear, and more, yeah, like just spending more time, like, you know, like analyzing stuff. And if you hear something that you like, even if if you're a leader, and you record maybe a session, and then you go back, and then you sort of try to analyze what is it that you did, and yet then you'll find, oh, this might maybe didn't work out as well, because you find out that these voices were clashing, because maybe they were doing the same rhythm, whatever, you know, like, I don't know, like just trying to think more as a composer. And then sometimes you say this, and it might sound like you want to become like academic about this, and for me it's not about that. For me, learning music is just adding more possibilities, more ingredients to the table, you know. So when you're basically cooking, and you have more ingredients or spices available, not to mean that you're gonna use them all the time, or or all in the same dish, but you know, you know that you have these tools, and maybe you did like a circle that's had a specific sound, and then you can think about it and say, okay, maybe the next one I'm gonna do it in a different in major, or with a different scale, or I'm gonna go for a triplet subdivision, or I'm gonna, you know, like some concepts that might actually help you making the circles or the improvisations you do more interesting, or more intriguing, or more contrasting, you know, more dynamic, so that you have more a wider palette of colors when you are improvising. And so I think that's really something that I think that for me is super useful. And I feel that I have a bunch of like tools, and I want this bag of tools to become bigger and bigger every time, because for me it's just having more tools for having fun at the moment of having music. So yeah, I'm practicing stuff all day long, even if I'm walking and thinking about melodies, and all these things become part of me, and then I can throw them inside an improvisation. So I think that that's something that I would recommend, like just starting to think more about music and analyzing stuff and analyzing what you do and just spending some time with that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Juan. Yeah, and also this analytical mind, you don't have to hold on to it. You might finish a Circlesong, then turn on the analytical mind and say, okay, now I'm gonna go in a triplet feel, and then you start the Circlesong, and then you can let go. And fun.
Completely, exactly, totally. You use the tool and then you forget
Mm-hmm.
about it. It's just the tool is something that inspires you. For me, like it's not a goal. The thing is that when you're in academy, in the most, it's not to blame the academy, but when you're in school, in music school, and you're studying and you learn tools, sometimes it's the goal of that tool is kind of blurry because many times it seems that the goal of that tool is to just go to the next level, the next solfege or the next year training, or that's the goal of learning. The Lydian scale is to just go to a test and be able to identify it to the next level. But that's, for me, it's like really it's pretty nonsense when you are outside of the more academic world. So for me, if you learn a Lydian scale, it's just to have a tool that will inspire you to make music with that color. So let's say you start your improvisation with that color, and then once you have it, you let it go, and then but then you are already swimming and inside that sound that will take your improvisation to a different place. So it's exactly what you just said.
And I think this is also a great opportunity for conservatoire musicians. In my experience, when you improvise with them, we're really missing that part where they get to use that knowledge in an embodied way.
Yeah.
And it'd be great to kind of find more conversations when they get to actually improvise, especially instrumentalists, who don't use their voice, to actually be able to use the tools that they have rationally through improvisation, and then have that exchange with people who are not approaching music in that way and finding way into analytical thinking. I think there's a lot more space for those conversations to happen, and they're very, mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
And dear Sophia, we've opened all kind of worms. Any reflections, and what's your perspective on all of this?
Yeah, I think I think it's like basically encouraging people to practice music, not because you have to prove something like in academic terms that you have to learn because you have an exam. I think for me it's important that to connect ourselves as leaders and also improvisers to this motivation to learn more, because those tools really take you into different places. And if you're doing an improv session of 2 hours and we're always in the same mode, the same color, the same rhythmical the same rhythm, you start getting stuck also. So the more we have those tools, the more we can go into different place, into unknown place, and the more we can have this creative leap also. So and there's the analytical mind, and there's also, if you're maybe less analytical, you can still practice a lot in an intuitive way. You can get a loop station, you can get an app on your phone and just practice, like working on the loops, and always trying to find new ways musically, because that will bring you creatively to completely different places. And so and in this retreat that we do for about leading Circlesongs, a big part of it is actually improving your music skills, and really, and it, of course, all of the connection parts, connecting to to the group, and the presence and all of that. Of course, that's super important, but then music really brings you also to all this new exciting places. So so yeah, practicing, like really practicing music the more we can as improvisers. I think it's really gonna take also these improvisations to a different level. So I'm definitely encouraging people to go to that place too.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think this is a beautiful place to stop and round off our conversation with this idea of the joy of practice.
Yeah.
Something that increases your tools, and then you can bring that to other people, and then you can just have fun in this whole relational, connected way that we're all used to. But it can definitely bring a lot to those experiences, to our improvisations, to our music, Juan, Sofia, thank you so much for everything that you do. I wish you all the best with all of your projects, with all of your musical work. Keep us updated. You know, keep joining what you're up to with the WoW, and looking forward to seeing you somewhere in some room, in some
Yeah,
situation,
yeah,
for some more singing and improvising.
yeah.
Thank you, Kaka.
Same. Thanks a
Thank you
lot.
for all the work you're doing, and it's really great that it's growing also the well, and that more people know about what's going on globally. And thank you for inviting
Of
us to be here.
course,
Yeah, thanks a lot. Because I mean, there's so many different perspectives on this. I mean, everyone is like a different universe, and it's great that you're doing this because it's a way of like going into that universe of like everyone that you're interviewing. So thanks for letting us be part of it.
of course, it was a pleasure to chat with you. I'm gonna let you go back into your musical universes. Have
All
fun,
right.
and see you somewhere soon.
Thank you,
All the best.
Yaka.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye
Ciao.
bye. Ciao.
Bye.